Check one, check, check. Check one, check.
Good evening. I want to take this opportunity to welcome everyone and also to call the City Development and Planning Committee meeting to order. I just want to remind everyone that this is a formal council committee meeting. We are having the presentation up here. We will then go back down to room 110 and continue deliberations on council business. This is not an avenue for public input. That's going to take place over at the county office building tonight at 7 o'clock. So I just wanted to remind everyone with that. Okay, and at this point, I'm going to turn the program over to Dave Bucco for the presentation about our possible casino.
Great, thank you very much, Peggy. I guess we all wouldn't have fit into room 110 very comfortably, would we? What a great evening, to have a great turnout. And we're very excited to be here today. Those of you that weren't at Proctor's, the GE Theater, about a week ago, when we announced our partnership, we're going to cover some of the things we talked about that day and be able to give you more details on the specifics of our project. First of all, I want to thank all of you and want to really bring up one of the more exciting visions for Schenectady. Here with me tonight are Francesco Gillespie, chairman of the Gillespie Group. Greg Carlin, chief executive officer of Rush Street Gaming. You don't have to clap for all these people. My guess is a few of you may want to throw things at them. David Patton, President and Chief Operating Officer of Rush Street Gaming. Lee Whitaker, Vice President of Communications at Sugar House Casino in Philadelphia. And we're also pleased to join other members of the team, Scott Struzner, Judy Gold, and Jack Horner of Rush Street Gaming. So thank you very much, Rush Street, for coming in and sending the SWAT team. Tonight we're going to be giving you a detailed presentations of the Rivers Casino and Resort in Mohawk Harbor. Great name. It's an opportunity I believe will be an important economic development driver in Schenectady for years to come, and for the region, not just Schenectady. Those of us here have dedicated ourselves to Schenectady's revitalization. Just go look at State Street. It's more than fair to say we are amidst of a renaissance right now, thanks to the hard work and dedication of our elected officials, business leaders, but most importantly, our citizenry. I'd like to just ask Francesco Gillespie to say a brief few words about the history of the Gillespie Group with the City and County of Schenectady and the future commitment to Schenectady, and then I'll start the program. Francesco, you weren't expecting that.
Good evening. Well, I don't know what to say. I've been here for about 40 years. We first took over the two large government facilities and added to that, that was about 5 million square feet. And they were absolutely vacant. And then we have another one, which we started about 20 years ago. We were able to fill that space 100%. And the companies that joined us hired thousands of people. So besides the things that David has been doing in the past 20 years here in Schenectady, we've had a very good run, and we will continue. And that's all I'm going to say.
Hopefully continue means continuing the capital investment in our community. We can all admit that the glow of the electric city is dim for a bit. All of us have participated in this comeback story, and it is a comeback story. Tonight we take a closer look at what the next chapter brings us. Central to our future success is the dedication to redevelop the city's waterfront. It's something the Gillespie Group has made central to our business efforts, and it's something that nobody else in our community has done. We are going to take over the waterfront and do it the right way. A giant piece of the puzzle involves Mohawk Harbor. It's a great name. And now the recently announced partnership between the Gillespie Group and Rush Street Gaming to site a casino there, the Rivers Casino and Resort at Mohawk Harbor. There are a number of people in this room that weren't around the last time an engine rolled out of Elko in 1969. Marked a period of dismal time for this property, this waterfront, almost a mile of waterfront. I think some bad pictures are up there about Elko. So needless to say, it was a challenge, but Mr. Gillespie and myself and our team, and we've got a very dedicated group of Gillespie people that looked at this and said this is an opportunity, a challenge, but an opportunity. The good news is we've already committed to this project. We've committed to this development. Competitors building in suburban locations with no approvals, we have a considerable head start. We've done significant amount of work on brownfield remediation. We are a full employment act for every engineer, I think, in town. Worked very well with the city and Carl Olson and his team to determine what infrastructure is needed. Demo's been done, seeker's been done, and will be continued to be updated. This is the only urban site for siting a casino in the capital region that we're aware of as of right now. Mohawk Harbor is a project we've been working on for 4 years now. Time flies. In short, it's a $150 million riverfront development that is going to turn this brownfield site into a first-class mixed-use development with office, apartments, condos, hotels, restaurants, retail, and commercial space. Our harbor will be a destination for the many boaters. I guess Commissioner Stratton indicated there's 40,000 boaters that pass by this site. I'll take him at his word. We want to complement the tourism that the Canal Corporation has invested, and we want to make sure that we can attract those people to come to Schenectady. The proximity to I-90, 890, Route 50, Glenridge Road, and a newly rebuilt, I hope, Rexford Bridge makes this site easily accessible. So we have the ability to work and complement the upgrades that were done with Erie Boulevard and continue that initiative well beyond its first and second phases all the way up to the Mohawk Harbor site. Site is less than a quarter mile away from the new train station that's going to be happening. Amtrak is investing over $15 million for a new train station, as well as upgrading the tracks between Schenectady and Albany. It's a significant upgrade that's relative to our projects. We can say visitors to our project will be able to come by road, rail, boat, and even walk. When New York State voters approved the amendment to allow gambling, a number of major gaming companies and their representatives contacted our company. We talked to everybody that put in an application into our region, and then some in the southern tier, as well as into Catskills. Rush Street Gaming was a company we felt was right for Schenectady. We turned down better offers. Rush Street was founded by Neil Bloom and Greg Carlin, who you'll hear from tonight. Neil was in town the other day when we announced it at Proctor's, and we'll see, I'm sure, a lot of them. He has a remarkable story. Suffice to say, he rose from quite modest means to become one of the most successful real estate developers in the country. He's been involved with more than $50 billion, that's with a B, worth of developments and acquisitions, including Faneuil Hall, Copley Place, Chicago Mercantile Exchange, MGM Towers, Century City, to name a few. But what I learned about Neil, and by extension about Rush Street, was they're a company about character. When I first met Neil and Greg out at their facility in Des Plaines outside of Chicago, I knew right away we can do business on a handshake. I recently had the opportunity to visit the Rivers Casino in Pittsburgh during a graduation trip for my son. Totally impressed. First of all, the manager was from upstate New York in Sylvan Beach, which is right where I grew up outside of Rome, New York. But the property's first class. The design, the atmosphere, the quality of the staff and amenities, but the fact is they opened up the river. They're right on the river. They took advantage. They're getting the community to embrace the river and take a portion of the community that was basically run down, and the community is totally engaged and having a lot of community events right there on the river. That's really why I'm excited to work with Rush. Our companies have the same value, but the same mantra, to do it right. And we are going to do this project right. So now I'd like to hand things over to Greg Carlin, the CEO, who will tell you a little bit more about Rush Street and their type of business. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave, and I want to thank all of you, members of council and from the Schenectady citizens, for giving us the opportunity to tell you about our company and to tell you about our plans for Schenectady. My name is Greg Carlin. I am the CEO of Rush Street Gaming and co-founder. I went to work for Neil about 19 years ago, and it was basically me and a bookkeeper in his family office, and I'll never forget, before I started working for him, he said to me, "You know, I'm not really sure what you're going to be doing, but you know, we've always done well around here, hiring smart young kids, and you'll figure it out." So here we are 19 years later, and we've built a nice gaming business, and I'm going to talk about that today and introduce some of my colleagues. Rush Street currently operates 3 properties. We have the Rivers Casino and Displays, which opened in 2011. The Sugar House Casino in Philadelphia, which opened in 2010. The Rivers Casino in Pittsburgh, which opened in 2009. And we also we're involved in a company that manages the Fallsview Resort, which is in Niagara Falls, Canada, in Ontario. And Neil and I are on the board of that company, and I'm on the executive committee of that company. All 4 of our casino properties have the reputation of being world-class gaming facilities that exceed expectations of our visitors, our team members, and the communities where they operate. I'm proud to say that we set very high standards, and we work hard to exceed those standards. Our priorities are providing guests with a great customer experience, our employees with a great work environment, and we also strive to be excellent corporate citizens in the communities we operate. In short, we're committed to building the highest quality casinos that we can that fit into the communities they're located. That means that all of our properties are unique in their own right, but the binding tie is that they've all been successful. In Philadelphia, for example, we were the first casino to be financed after the Great Recession. It was a very difficult financing environment, but you know, we stepped up, put in more equity in order to get that deal done. There were 2 licenses awarded in Philadelphia, us and another group. The other group never actually got their casino built, and the company went bankrupt, and that license in Philadelphia still isn't operating. But Neil stepped up and put in more equity when it was needed because of the crisis, and made sure that the property opened and has been successful. Similar in Pittsburgh, we actually stepped into that project when the original applicant who was awarded the license could not deliver on his promises. As the market was going into recession, he was unable to raise the financing to build the project, and we stepped in and took the project over from him, and were able to build it on time, on budget, and deliver on all the promises that he had made to the city of Pittsburgh. Our casinos continually receive accolades. Rivers Casino and Displays was named a Chicago Top 20 workplace its very first year in business. And I'm very proud of that, because if you looked at the list of other companies on that list, every one of them had been around for more than 15 years. You know, we were the only company on that list that was its first year in business, and we actually received that award our second year in business, and hopefully we'll receive it this year, our 3rd year in business. The Fallsview Resort in Niagara Falls has been named Ontario's best casino for 6 years in a row by the Toronto Sun Readers Poll, and we're very proud of that fact. Let's see here. Next slide. When voters approved casino gaming expansion in New York City, Neil and I were very excited about the prospects to do business in New York. And we came up to the capital region, and we looked around at lots of different sites in the region. And when we met with Dave and we came to Schenectady, and we walked through downtown Schenectady and spent time at Proctor's, and we went down to the site, we knew this was the best site for a casino in this region. We love the riverfront site, and it's actually very similar to our project in Pittsburgh, which is also on the river and was a former industrial site, and our project in Philadelphia, which is on the river and was a former industrial site. In both those cases, we've been able to redevelop, what was a former industrial factory, or in the case of Philadelphia, it was a sugar refinery, and they had closed their doors, a decade before we came in. And we rebuilt the riverfront. We opened up access to the water with pathways, and you can, lots of folks in the neighborhood in Philly and in Pittsburgh use the paths in front of the casino, and we're really proud of that fact. And we're looking forward to doing the same thing right here in Schenectady. Tell you a little bit about the project. The current budget is estimated to be about $300 million. And if you couple that with Gillespie's investment in the harbor and retail and condos of $150 million, you're looking at a total budget for this site of $450 million. The design will be contemporary design, and we will incorporate natural light in the facility. All our casinos have natural light. It's not like the old days. Casino design has evolved from the old days when people said you want a closed box with no lights and no clocks, and that's not really true anymore. Today's casino design is much more contemporary, incorporating the exterior elements and being open to the outside as opposed to closed to the outside. The casino itself will be about 50,000 square feet of gaming. We'll have a poker room. There's going to be about 1,150 slot machines, 66 table games, and the total project will also include 2 hotels, one on site at the casino and then one on the Mohawk property, totaling about 275 rooms. But this really isn't just about the gaming. The Rivers Casino and Resort Mohawk Harbor will be a unique regional entertainment destination. Full range of dining options, including a state-of-the-art banquet facility with great outdoor patio space. And as Dave mentioned, we're going to really leverage the harbor and all it has to offer by really creating riverfront green space and bike and walking paths, and that's one of the exciting features of the project. Also, our company is committed to green sustainability practices. New York State is actually the second state to require that casinos attain LEED certification. Our company, Rush Street Gaming, is actually the first casino company in the world to build a LEED certified gold casino, which we did in Des Plaines. So we're very much looking forward to fulfilling that requirement here in New York State. Next, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, David Patton. He's the President and Chief Operating Officer of Rush Street Gaming, and he's going to tell you a little bit more about our company and our operating practices. David.
Thanks, Greg. I want to thank the City Council and everybody who has come tonight. Brief little bit of background. I've been with Greg and Neil for 5 years now. Joined the company just before the Rivers Casino in Pittsburgh opened, and it's been a terrific run watching and helping to operate the casinos that we've managed, and we're extremely excited about the prospects for Schenectady. I want to talk to you about 4 things tonight: integrity, public safety, jobs, and then some high-level economics. We take our commitments very seriously, and one of the items that I want to highlight for you tonight is our commitment as far as responsible gaming goes. Every new hire who comes to any of our properties goes through an extensive responsible gaming training, and then they get refreshed on that every year. We have very rigorous policies to make sure that customers who don't wish to gamble anymore have the ability to self-exclude. We train our team members on how to spot signs of problem gambling. They're trained to be proactive as well. We have 800 numbers that are posted throughout the property, as well as in most of our advertisements. So we take that very seriously. We also allow folks to self-restrict things like check cashing, or if they don't want to receive promotional items or anything like that. We make sure our customers fully understand what their options are. And with the statute that was passed in New York, there's a $500, basically a tax on each slot machine that's going to go to fund problem gaming initiatives. When it comes to public safety, we partner very closely with the local police departments in each of the cities that we operate. And what we found is that crime has not materialized as an issue in the areas that we operate, and in many cases, crime rates have actually gone down. We have received a lot of praise from the local police departments, and we make sure that we have a great working relationship with them and that they can assist us and are very proactive with us as well to make sure that those issues are being managed. And if you were to speak to the police chiefs in all the cities that we operate. They'll tell you pretty much the same story, that they have a great relationship with our casinos and that crime really is not an issue. And we've been very, very gratified to see how those have played out over the years that we've been operating our properties. Now, some really good news I want to talk about is the jobs that will come with the casino. To build the casino, we anticipate there'll be hundreds of construction jobs, and then upon opening, approximately 1,200 permanent jobs. It would be very hard for me to think of a place that couldn't use a few more jobs, and so I think that would be very welcome here. And the kind of jobs that we have are actually extremely good jobs. If you look at the compensation numbers for the properties that we operate, and this is for, it says non-management compensation, I would take that one step further. This is the hourly team members, okay? They're not supervisors, they're not managers, they're not the general managers. These are just people who are on an hourly wage. This is the numbers for their compensation to each of the properties. So an average salary of about $50,000, and median, so if you take the person that's in the middle, it's still over $40,000. So we believe that we provide very good jobs for folks. And it's not just the jobs that they work in, but we like to make sure that we're providing opportunities for real careers for people. So before we open, first of all, we make sure that we try to hire from the local community wherever possible, and our numbers are very high in terms of hiring from the local areas that we operate. We also provide some pre-opening training. We conduct job fairs with the local Chamber of Commerce. We'll be partnering with Schenectady County Community College here for both job placement and training. And I look back to see how many people actually applied for jobs at the properties, the 3 properties that we're operating, and I found that we had 110,000 people apply for jobs at our 3 properties for approximately 4,000 to 5,000 jobs. So we know that there's going to be tremendous interest. It allows us to pick to the very best applicants, and we're very excited about gearing that up. Once somebody is in the workforce, we provide ongoing career development, education. We have tuition reimbursement and other methods for them to advance their careers. If they graduate to a supervisor level, we provide training for that. If they graduate to a manager level, we have leadership training for that as well. And we went back to look to see how many people have been promoted at our casinos. And we've had over 2,000 people be promoted since the casinos opened. And just in the last year, we've had over 430 team members get promoted to the next level. So we love to promote from within. We love to try to develop people, make sure that, that we're promoting the folks that are already with us. All right, taxes. There's benefits for everybody, and one of the benefits for the local communities are the taxes associated with the opening of the casino. And this is per the statute. The host municipality receives 5% of gaming taxes and fees, plus attendant real estate taxes to the city and school district. The host county also gets a similar numbers, 5% of gaming taxes and fees, real estate taxes, and then also sales and hotel occupancy taxes. And then there's some non-host community counties that receive a total of 10% of the gaming taxes and fees. Now, the state has made some estimates as to what that's going to amount to, and you can see those on this slide. That's coming from the New York State Division of Budget. And then lastly, tourism we think is going to be a big plus. We estimate that there'll be close to 3 million projected new visitors to the region. So we think it enhances Schenectady's reputation as an entertainment destination. Also, if you look at Proctor's, which generates 650,000 visitors, we think the additional 2.8 million helps complement that a lot. And we'll also provide a boost to heritage tourism. Just all these new people coming to the region who haven't been here before, they're going to want to take advantage of the many attributes, the many positive things that are in the city, the other businesses. Then we've seen actually in the other cities that we've been operating that their businesses are enhanced because you get people coming in. They don't just go to the casino; they eat at the restaurants, they go to shows, and we found that it provides an overall boost to the city outside of the economic benefits of the jobs and the taxes. So, very excited about that. I'd like to now introduce Lee Whitaker, who's going to talk about some more of our commitments.
I hope you can see me. I'm not very tall. Sorry. Good evening. Thanks for having us. I'm very excited to be here. Drove up this morning from Philadelphia with Jack, who was drinking coffee and eating yogurt and making me a little nervous, but we made it. My name is Lee Whitaker. I'm the Vice President of Communications at Sugar House Casino in Philadelphia. I have been with the Rush Street team now almost 7 years, so a really great place to work. Greg was the first person I met when I was sort of interviewing, I'll say, and I've loved it ever since. I want to talk to you a little bit tonight about working at one of the properties and how we interact with the community. I can't see the screen because, as you know, I'm not tall, but I do my best to stay with you. I know that one of the things you're most concerned about is how this casino might impact the community. It was a huge concern in Philadelphia also. Casinos are new to Philadelphia. Even though Atlantic City was 50 miles down the road, there was no casino in the immediate area. And so Philadelphians were a little skeptical about what a casino meant for their neighborhood. We are committed to being part of the community. In Philadelphia, I always say that what's good for Philadelphia is good for us, and we believe that. And so when we go into a community, we get to know that. We get to know the neighborhood, we get to know the community, we get to know the community groups. We volunteer, we contribute to organizations. We work to make a positive impact. We're part of that community, like our employees, our building is there, our employers are there. And so like so many other local businesses in and around our places, we support, we care, and we give back. And we commit to you that we will always be a good corporate citizen and a good neighbor. I want to tell you a little story about me. So I don't have a gaming background. In Philadelphia, I worked for Philadelphia City Council, and then I went and worked for the school district of Philadelphia. And so, like some of you in the room, I was a little bit skeptical also about what a casino sort of meant for Philadelphia. So as I was interviewing, like I mentioned, I met Greg, and one of the first things Greg talked about was wanting to get to know our neighbors and wanting to make sure that we didn't do things, on our property that would upset our neighbors, that would upset the balance of our neighborhood. This was a team that was committed to sort of, being a good neighbor. And Sugar House is not that far away from a couple of schools, which are near and dear to my heart, having come from the school district. And so when I heard Greg talk a lot about community, I knew I was in the right place. I'm like, this is the right team, this is the right place. We're going to do really good things here. So we do our due diligence in these efforts. We get out there, we get to know the community groups. We don't pretend to know what's best for you or your community, so we come out and talk to you and find out what you need. What are your needs? How can we support you? How can we give back? How can we become a part of this, community? And listen, we get our employees involved because we've figured out at all of these places that what's important for our employees and important for our community is important for us. Don't know. I have no idea where we are. All right. So I also, as you would have it, to be on a team, I was one of the first employees. So when you're number 4 in a team, you get to do everything. So I just also happen to be the diversity officer at Sugar House. And I'll tell you, our teams really do reflect the communities that we serve. In Philadelphia, my boss, our GM, is a woman, and so are 7 of our VPs, which I'll have you know makes our one male VP very uncomfortable, but he's adjusting. But at every level of the organization, diversity is very important to us. So from the front line all the way to the senior executive team, we want to make sure that our team is reflective of not only our customers, but of the community that we serve. All right. So at all of our properties, economic benefits extends beyond, wages that we pay to our employees and tax revenues that are generated to the communities. We also look at how to get the local vendors involved. I know in Philadelphia we work very, very closely with all of the chambers, both the main chamber and the minority chambers in Philly. We try to get a lot of those businesses into our pipelines and get them to understand we're highly regulated, so we try to get them to understand our business, what our needs are, and we work with those organizations to bid on our services, help them build capacity, get them to get bigger. For some of the smaller businesses, some of our projects or some of our bids were too big for them. You know, they didn't have the capacity to meet that need, and so we broke them out. You know, we said, okay, if you can only do, you know, $50,000, let's break up this bid into smaller chunks so that we can get more local vendor participation in the pipeline. And so, you know, our local vendors in all of these areas have benefited from this relationship. In Des Plaines, we spend $44.2 million with our partners, 23.7 in Pittsburgh, and 14.5 in Philly, and those numbers only go down because the size of those casinos go down. Philly happens to be the smallest, whatever. We're getting bigger. As we looked at Schenectady, we were impressed by this city's sort of strength of community, and it's part of the reason why, you know, this team sort of picks the locations that they do. You know, we want to be part of a strong community, and we want to make strong connections within that community. We held our first announcement at Proctor's, and we were pleased to support the Fair Game Coalition in their efforts to protect and support local arts and cultural organizations. We are also partnering with the Schenectady County Community College to support its casino and gaming management program, and that's going to be a tremendous resource, both for us and for the students and for the graduates to find jobs at our place. In addition to local vendors and business partners, we're also going to launch a rewards program so that our customers can benefit or can earn benefits that they can exchange at local businesses. So in Philly, I can tell you, it's called, we call it Rush Rewards Plus. And essentially what it is if you have one of our, you know, reward cards like you have in the casino, you can present that card at a ton of businesses in and around the casino, in the neighborhood, I mean, in the immediate community and surrounding, that, you know, you get, you know, some discount at the local hotel, or you can get a free sandwich or some other things. And we've worked with florists and hotels and restaurants and a bunch of other kinds of businesses in Philadelphia. So those are just a few of the ways that we'll work with the community. Like I said, we don't pretend to know everything about you, but we want to get to know you and figure out how we can make this work for both of us. Thank you so much for listening to me drone on. With that, I'm going to turn it back over to Dave.
Lee, what passion. That's awesome. You did good. And if every employee is like you, this is going to be a winner. Although probably everybody won't win. Otherwise you wouldn't be doing this, right? It is a fantastic opportunity we have, and you can see why, with all the other casino partners that tried to approach us, that it was an easy decision picking Rush. I'd like to reiterate how proud we are at the Gillespie Group for working with such an outstanding group of people and with a great city. Our investment is going to continue. It's something special we have here. It's an opportunity we've been working on for years to build on the riverfront, the Rivers Casino and Resort at Mohawk Harbor. Simply put, and I'm very, very prejudiced, this is the best proposal in the capital region. And Schenectady can go toe-to-toe with anybody. I'm very confident of that. We can all work together very well. We need to work together. We need to complement the investments we've made in downtown. We want connectivity between Mohawk Harbor and State Street. We want to create jobs for our kids. That's what it's all about. We want to get these kids from Schenectady High to be able to go to the community college and come out with a trade and make that line in social services, the building we own in the new YMCA residential program, make that, hopefully nobody's going to live there anymore if we can do things like that. We need to work together on that. This is a historic investment. $450 million in an upstate New York City. Think about it. In addition to the $100 million we've already done. And Schenectady's right for that commitment. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your patience in going through this with us. It's a major decision for Schenectady. It's a positive one. Forget about you. Think about your kids. Think about the next generations. Think about the ability to keep our kids here, to get them jobs. It's not all about a casino. It's about addressing a riverfront. It's creating an urban environment that we can create opportunities for people to have an entertainment center here. Proctor's wouldn't be on board with it. The community college wouldn't be on board with it. The chamber wouldn't be on board with it if they didn't think it was right for our community. So thank you very much for your attention, and I appreciate all the support.
At this time, I'd open it up to questions from the City Council. If anyone has one or more. Okay, Mr. Eric.
Well, thank you for coming to Schenectady and speaking with us. This is definitely a topic that attracts a lot of attention. There's a lot of people talking, and as a council member, I won't speak for everybody else, but I get a lot of phone calls and emails from all sorts of people with different opinions. So thank you for coming and speaking to us. A couple of questions. The first one I was going to ask, can you spell Schenectady? That's one rule that you have to be able to. Anybody got it? All right. Okay, so it's family talent. That's right. No, actually, more seriously, one of the questions that I wanted to ask in terms of one of the slides you had, the revenue from the different, the other rivers, Sugar House, the other one in Pittsburgh, Fallsview. You had the revenue. What would the projected revenue be for the Schenectady Casino? We're good.
I don't think that we've released our projections. We're still working on them, but I believe the state has put out projections, if I'm not mistaken, based on the $5.7 million tax estimate. What's the state's projection, Scott? I don't know. Is it? So, so I think the state's projections are that the tax revenue will be $5.7 million. I'm not sure how to back into the math on that, but we can do that for you and let you know it.
So you don't have any estimate in terms of where you think it would be? I mean, I know the state's estimate, but I'm just kind of general. You give me a broad range. I'm not looking to nail it down to the penny here, but
right. Well, I'd say we're probably in the $200 to $250 million range. Would be sort of a broad range.
Sure, that's great. Thank you.
Ms. Peraza.
Yes, I don't have a question, rather a statement, because earlier you did mention that the county is having time this evening for people to go and make comment. But I wanted to also remind everyone that next Monday is our time to receive comments, along with emails and phone calls leading up to next Monday, and that is a very important part. And so although you can't speak tonight, please do, if you want to be heard, come and speak next Monday.
Anyone else? Mr. Erickson? Go ahead.
I go all night with questions. Right? I'll try to. We have time. In terms of the other, I know there's going to be 275 hotel rooms that will be created on site in their area. Are there hotels and restaurants also in Schenectady? Is there anything you can do, or will there be any programs? I know, like in Vegas, somebody told me that other restaurants actually get subsidized by casinos. Is that something that we would do here?
So one of the things that Lee mentioned was a rewards program in Philadelphia, whereby our people that come to the casino they earn points, and they can use those points to get discounts at local restaurants. We also in Philadelphia, we send people out to local restaurants and hotels in the area. Our team members patronize local restaurants because they all live in the area and work in the area. And so we do try to work closely with area businesses to promote Schenectady and the local community.
Thank you.
Carl, one of the things, and I'm on the board of Proctor's as well, we historically have to send people out to Wolf Road on a regular basis because there's not enough hotel rooms in our community. If you look at Albany, Schenectady, Saratoga, Troy, we are the least served hotel community in that region. GE, historically from GE R&D and the main facilities, send people to other parts, to Route 7, to other areas. So from that standpoint, adding another 275 rooms probably isn't going to be enough, but it's a good start. We've got the Hampton that runs in the 90s regularly. The new DoubleTree is actually taking rooms out of service. We've also reached out to the chamber members. We've reached out to other restaurants. They're all supportive of it. They think it's going to complement more people. You got to remember, take a look at those numbers and 2.8 million people coming through here. Combine that, walk around when you have Phantom walking out of Proctor's. It's pretty exciting, the amount of people that are going to be able to go there. And the restaurants that are going to be a casino are not ones that are going to be competing with downtown. I bet you they don't have an Italian restaurant there.
Anyone else? Ms. Porterfield.
Regarding the casinos, I mean, based on the years they've been open, I guess you're sort of new to the gaming business. The oldest one is only 10 years old, right?
The casino in Niagara Falls opened in 2004. That's correct.
That's the oldest. So in terms of the amount of revenue, has there been a decline or an increase in the amount of revenue since these casinos, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, the Plains, opened?
That's a good question. So generally, there's a actually, I'll just let you answer this, David. Generally, the first few years, you see an increase in revenue, and after that, it pretty much flattens out, and we've seen sort of a flattening of revenues at our properties. Maybe we had a small decline last year, but generally, it's first couple of years you see some growth and then a flat line.
A lot of it depends on what's happening with local competition. So. In Des Plaines, for example, we've had very good trajectory. We're actually up this year versus prior year, and we opened in the middle of 2011. So our first full year was 2012. Small drop off in 13, but we're up this year. In Philadelphia, we had very strong revenue growth the first 2 years, and then a new competitor opened, and so our revenues went down slightly because they were 20 miles from where we were. But the last couple of months, we've seen our revenue start to increase again. And then in Pittsburgh, we had very, very strong revenue growth until the Cleveland casino and some other casinos, which are within about 2 hours of our operation, opened up. So we were slightly up last year to, basically flat to slightly up. But we certainly haven't seen any, troubling trend where the revenues go up and then all of a sudden they start to fall off a cliff or anything like that. We've weathered the storms of both the economic recession and also competition far better than our competitors in each of the markets that we've operated.
I think that's an important point, is that if you look at our market share and us relative to our competitors, we've actually increased our market share and improved our business. So I think even though we are a young company, that we have competed very successfully against other gaming companies in the markets that we operate.
Any other questions? All right, if not, I want to say thank you very much for coming and making this wonderful presentation. We will move the committee meeting back down to room 110, and I'll remind everyone that these folks are going to be over at the county office building starting at 7, I believe doing another presentation and then entertaining public comment. So thank you all for coming.
Well, I just got my email like, a couple hours ago. So I know that Mr. Polster had it on, and I've read through it, but if you could just kind of give us, this is the actual resolution, about the background for the resolution.
I'm sorry, this is what?
This is the actual resolution which came from something.
Yes. And what's your question?
My question is, the background, you said it's because the governor signed a law about upstate New York gaming, and so do we have to pass this resolution? I just wanted to.
Yes. Right now, the legislation requires that the potential host community pass a resolution such as the one that is before you. I would note, and I'm just looking around the table, on some of them, I have no idea why it came out this way. It does say draft, but they are...
Oh, mine says that.
Just continue on that next page. Yeah, I do know how to spell draft.
We're saving it.
The legislation does require that the potential host community supply with the applicant's application a resolution saying that they approve of the site. And this resolution is designed to do that. In all of the whereases, that's all the prefatory material that is required, so that it meets the requirements of the state. And I did not print out the Gaming Act and so on. That's statewide. I would note that there were a number, and I don't recall exactly what the numbers are, but there were like 23 municipalities that already passed resolutions, and there were like 18 of them that were summarily rejected because they did not have what is contained in this one. So this one has been reviewed and meets all the requirements as outlined by the state.
And there's no requirement that the public hearing it takes place before the resolution is passed?
There's no requirement for a public hearing. This is a resolution. It's not an ordinance. It doesn't fall within anything in our code or state law that would require a public hearing prior.
Any other questions or comments? And Mr. Rudavera was raising questions just about the wording on it. It is anticipated that a number of the Gillespie Group will develop a hotel component of the rental facility.
Can we word that a little differently, please?
You want to delete the word anticipated?
What you're asking for, yes.
Kind of.
To be more specific.
Be more specific and not
That it is the
anticipated.
Gillespie.
I mean, the word is kind of weak to my feelings. I guess.
Yes, I can do that.
Okay.
Okay.
Are you questioning whether it's the Gillespie Group or whether a hotel will be developed? Both. If they're going to build it and if it's going to...
Anything else? If not, again, I will entertain a motion to approve this.
I will move it.
All right. Do I have a second?
I'm not prepared to second because I'm still, we just finished the presentation and I'm still looking at some other things, specifically what the comptroller has to say in terms of gaming within communities. So I'd like to be able to finish reviewing that first before I...
That's fine. I will second it then. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? 1 abstention. Okay, good. I'm going to move some things around here because a couple of the guys from the city have been here to talk about potholes and paving. So, Ms. Porterfield, you asked for having this on the agenda.
I did.
Got to get them back to filling the potholes.
What's that?
We got to get them out there filling the potholes.
Okay, all right.
We'll go fast. Could you just join us?
Just mind if you stand at this and you can be on camera.
We were asked to speak to you about the potholes and the excessive potholes.
I'll frame it a little bit for you, okay? So the reason that I asked that this be put on the agenda, I myself, and I'm sure that other members of the council, and the mayor's office as well, gets many calls regarding the potholes. We're real clear on the fact that this has been a very difficult winter, and so the conditions of the street is probably worse than we've seen it in a number of years. But the concern is that most folks feel that it's not getting done, fast enough. It's June, and we're still, seeing a lot of potholes. One of the things is what is the plan in terms of like some of the more trafficked streets? When will they be done? So basically, what is the plan in terms of State Street, Albany Street? I'm just throwing out streets.
For full paving or for patching?
Well, for getting the potholes patched at this time.
Okay, for patching, that is those streets, Albany Street and State Street, and priority streets we try to address as often as we can, as frequently as we can. But there's also a numerous amount of complaints, as you know. The mayor's office gets them. We get them at the bureau. They come from every direction. I have a stack this big on my desk. It's actually consuming sometimes. It gives me a headache. But it's we go in a process where we try to cut the city into multiple areas rather than focusing on one area. If there's a specific on a main and we don't know about it, and it's hard for us to get to it, like you said, if there's something on State Street or Albany Street, we have already gone through those areas once already. Albany Street we had spanned already once. State Street we had spanned already once. And they will be recycled back into our checking for potholes as long as we're still attacking all the other general areas in the city. Usually we attack 5 areas. We split it into 7 areas now, where we're hitting multiple areas and trying to hit them with multiple crews. It's tough with manpower. It's tough with plants being so far away. The first plant to open was over an hour just to get material. So that's a big concern of ours. So when that opened in the beginning of April, we were traveling to Waterline on a daily basis, which is an hour just to get one truck filled. When that truck empties, it's another hour to there and back. So it has been a hassle. There are other plants open. There's a plant in Colony, which is the King's plant. They're all owned by Callahan. That's where we get our material. King's plant in Colony, who we've always used over the last how many ever years, is now only on a pre-order basis. So we can only call a day ahead of time. And if we don't know how much we're going to anticipate using, if we over-order, we have to take it. So if you order 20 tons for the day and you only use 15, you have to go and get the rest and find somewhere to use it. So we try to, if we're going to pre-order, we try to pre-order a limited amount, and then if we need more, we have to go to either Potterfield or Waterline. So it's tough. It's tough to get all of the holes in a huge manner.
We've decided that we're going to concentrate solely on the potholes before we get into our other stuff that we have to do. We are assisting engineering with the kiosks. We started the Crane Street Bridge. We halted that. We just made it passable and doing things over up on Large Street so that it was passable. But we're also behind schedule with our crack sealing and our cutout games that we don't get out because everyone's been consolidated. And as you know, we worked this past Saturday, and we're planning on working again this Saturday. The plant that we're going to is in Waterline, and it's only open until noon, 7 to noon. So we get out there and we sent out a couple trucks this past Saturday to get there, and there were still other trucks there ahead of us when we got there.
We've done 450 ton of material, I believe, this season, and that's from April 12th to last week.
That's a quarter of what we would normally do on one of the streets that we pave with the paving program.
Yeah, on full-length street. Yeah. And they're not wasting it. They're using wheelbarrows and dumping in every individual hole. And I mean, we would like to, get into these areas and zip them out and make them a lot more presentable. But at this point in time, we have to attack and get the holes filled so that people are not losing tires and bending rims and getting severe damages to their vehicles to make it safe.
Other questions? Mr. Posher?
Thank you. What about the sewer manholes? Are your crews doing that too?
The sewer department, that's part of their maintenance, and when they open them up, we fall behind them. So we've been also filling water and sewer cuts as well. And as you all know, this nice beautiful cut here.
Are you talking about the
that's part of our cutout.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you're in the, because actually I'm specifically Putnam Street, Putnam and Tyler Street, and you have another one right down there. I mean, these things have been, we have barricades around, quite honestly, for 4 months now. And the road is quite bad. It's deteriorating. We looked at one just the other day. You can actually see about 8 feet underneath that street. It's just been barricaded up. So is that still our department, your department?
It's not. Actually, prior to me taking this position, I was the city mason. I did all the manholes and catch basin repairs. And that's another thing it's extensive. You have to go in, the sewer department cuts it out, you have to take the irons out, find out if the iron is actually still even loose, and then you go back in, rebuild, brickwork, concrete, so on.
So we don't have a schedule on any of that stuff?
For us, no. That's the sewer. It's the sewer department. I can tell you that it is very time extensive on those, and it does take a lot of work. But that's another safety issue. We don't get a lot of undermining conditions. And the streets that we're doing like full length paving on, they're trying to get any manholes or any irons that are low in that area when we get into paving to get raised or lowered to the proper levels, so they're safe and fast.
Mr. Erickson.
And maybe it's already been put out there, I don't know, but is there, like, I know you're going zone by zone, just in terms of communication to the public, is there any way we can get that zone list, meaning, hey, week by week, not day by day, no promises, but kind of this is the order of...
That's just it. I can tell you, but I cannot. I've tried that. Initially, me and him have tried to communicate with each other in the office, saying we're going to work here, 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 and here. And within a matter of weeks, we're so far behind because more complaints come in while we're in that zone. When people see the truck come down the street, they immediately pick up the phone and call the bureau. So now they're calling us. Like just today, we're in Bellevue, and we're in Bellevue, and we're doing Bellevue. And I probably had 6 or 7 calls from Bellevue because they saw the trucks there today. So it's hard to say, yes, we're going to stay in Woodlawn for a week, because if we did that, then it would leave other aspects of the city and other parts of the city neglected. And we can't do that because sometimes there's a test for fixed holes.
There's even been complaints that, where they just paved Cutler Street before they even came in to pave it. They were calling us about the ramps that have to be there under the chips.
The ADA ramps?
They were like, why are they doing that instead of paving?
So ramps going first before they pave, we're calling and complaining that why the ramp's getting done on the road. Well, it's going to get done. We have to explain, step by step. And it's tough in that sense. So yes, we could give you a list. I can give you a list of our 7 areas and tell you, but it's hard to even promise that I can be in those exact times.
Everything is still weather permitting.
Weather permitting, plus we also have, other, we're not a big workforce. Our patch crew, our paving crew, our department is not a big workforce. And sometimes you're picking choose where you have to put these things.
You should have a patch cam on the top of the truck. Everyone could look online.
Mr. Rudeberry and then Mr. Kosher.
Just a question, in terms of percentage-wise, do you have how many streets was completed, percentage-wise?
When we go into a street, we try to complete the whole street. And like I said, if we run out of material, and by the time we get back out.
No, overall, the entire city.
Percentage-wise? About the potholes?
Not really the compound, percentage-wise, how much is left to be fixed?
Oh, I literally redo the list every week and a half on my desk, and when I did it today, I was very happy that some areas of the city only have 1 or 2 complaint stops left, where they would have had 20 to 40 in those. So I would say we're caught up percentage-wise. I don't know an exact number, but we're catching up. We are catching up significantly. We have Woodlawn is another area we're going to attack hopefully this weekend if the plant is operative, and we have Woodlawn and Central State Street, which is like the Becker Street Hill area. Those 2 areas are something we're trying to attack this week, along with continuing to finish Bellevue. And so I just keep working. I sleep potholes. I'll tell you, sometimes I lay in bed and I talk about potholes if I want. This consumes me on a daily basis. So, it's tough to be, sometimes we see people walking around. There's a couple here in public, yes, it's all day.
To give you a shirt.
Yes, I just put my number on a shirt, call me for potholes. And it's tough, and I appreciate everybody bearing with us, but it's excessive this year.
Mr. Kosher.
So I understand you say we have a stack of workers that keep coming on a daily basis. Are they coming in as individual phone calls, or are they coming in from the state hotline?
Everything. They come in from the mayor's office, they come direct to the Bureau of Service, they come in from DOT, they come in from that 1-800 pothole number. Even though that doesn't necessarily directly affect us, we still get it transferred to us from, I believe, the state. Emails, word of mouth, just driving the streets.
Neighborhood associations, they email me.
Yeah.
They come in from every direction, and I like I said, every once a week, if not a week and a half, depending on how often I can sit and get through them. I organize them by their sector and try to see when we can.
Yeah, the reason I'm asking is because when I first came on council, I talked to President King, and that was one of the biggest things even back in March. Potholes back then, of course, we're still in June, but the city of Troy, the city of Rochester, did some research, actually have an online procedure where you can actually record the pothole right online. There's a satellite image, you can punch it right in for you, it tells you, describes the size of the pothole, the length, and it automatically goes into a whole generating system where this whole spreadsheet is developed. So that not only you folks, but also the council folks had access to that, so we would kind of know, okay, this is where the pothole on 400 Craig Street, which is the one right in front of Boys and Girls Communication, you get that one. That's a big one. That's the, you filled it in right?
Lincoln and Craig twice. Or the one with the barrel on it.
Right in front of Boys and Girls Club. Right?
Does it have a barrel?
Twice. Oh, and there's
There's one that has a barrel on it, that's another one that should go on the barrel.
Yeah. But anyway, is that something we can maybe take a look at next year to put in a budget and see, or maybe if Mr. Falk can take a look into that? What Rochester or Troy is doing?
Can I ask how if you're in a predicament of almost a full-length street, how does that get?
Well, I'm not talking about full, I'm talking about, well, this is just pothole reporting potholes in your city.
When we get potholes, if you get one, most likely when you get there, there's going to be 6, 7, if not, you're working.
And we're also getting the complaint calls for those beautiful holes that the National Grid's making out.
Yes.
Which is another big thing.
That's something we can, when they have a year.
As soon as we get them, I have a gentleman engineer who follows those. I tell him to get them in here ASAP.
Good.
But it's in a year to fix the National Grid.
I believe I'm not the only two, I believe it's all plumbers. Paul, is it correct, all plumbers have a year? No, it's not correct. See, I don't want to speak out of turn.
They don't have a year when you do a plumber's cut, they give you 30 days.
No, but if it sinks over the year of the service.
They're responsible up to a year.
Yes, they're.
Warranty. The problem is getting a plumber to come back and do it.
Exactly.
I think we have to enforce that because they want to see the fair share of
check
clean by plumbers, private plumbers. That's something we need to look at very carefully.
Yeah, because they go on a brand new road, they cut it up, they do their service, they do their work and they do it well, but then it's when they.
We are left to fix it.
Over time, it does over time, we are going back and now we're repairing something that initially should have been very costly.
Okay.
So what's your cell phone so we can call you?
I got it. Just say hello to the
In terms of filling potholes, is there like a team that goes out first and looks at them and estimates how much you'll need, and then, you know?
That's me or him.
Oh.
I drive out every weekend.
We're out there, when we get the complaints, most of the time we have to check, almost, if not all of them, we have to check most of them. If it's a full-length street, we get a call where we get multiple calls and it's X street we get multiple addresses, we will tell them to go out and do full block.
Mm-hmm.
And they just, since they're after that, they will walk full block behind the truck and they will fill as needed. And then also on top of that, we get, this time of year, we're still doing, people are complaining if there's any damage from plows, driveway aprons, and such.
Right, Ms. Reedy.
I think then we need an addendum on the casino resolution to add a hot asphalt plant and have to bring that in.
Brandwine?
One more question. In terms of filling the potholes, there's been some complaint that they're bumpy. In terms of how do you fill it? Riding it over? In terms of leveling it
a roller.
to the existing road?
Yes, a 5-ton roller goes out with them. They'll fill with a wheelbarrow, rake it out as soon as they can and go over with a roller. Or when you're in a road like, say, Brandwine Avenue, with multiple.
Yeah, that's one.
It's tough. Yeah, of course, anybody going down the street is going to say there's bumps because you have, it's like a minefield of potholes.
That street's been actually, Brandwine between State and Union. I've been getting engineer about for the last 3 years. Yeah. It's amazing.
They've been talking to us a lot about things that they want to get paved, and we've been giving them suggestions and so on and so forth.
Okay. Some of these streets, when I first started, that just got paved, and I got 28 years. So, some of them are in need.
Anything else?
Well, I just want to say thank you, and I did witness it this weekend, actually, the whole process of putting it down, and they weren't bumpy either. So.
It's like I knew we were.
Yeah.
Because I can even.
That's where all the complaints coming from.
Yes. It's tough. There's a lot of holes. We put a lot of material. Yes. Albany Street, Brandwine, there's a few streets streets that have gotten a lot of material already.
You know Brandwine's bad when my 15-year-old tells me that.
Okay? Great, well, thank you.
Call you tomorrow.
Okay, item number 3, support the grant application for Gateway Liberty Park project. Mr. Stikeman.
Thank you.
There's also an addition we picked it up tonight.
We'd like to submit again this year to the New York State Consolidated Funding application for parks funding to expand Liberty Park. We submitted last year. We weren't successfully awarded. I think you have a photo there of what the area is for phase 1. This would also require a determination that there's no significant environmental impacts from this, which I've completed the short form, and I'll have that submitted with the resolution next week. And I'd just like to have you declare this as a priority project for the area. I think we've aligned this better this year with the CFA's priority projects. It's also now in part of the New York Rising Plan as well, so it's got a lot of things going for it that would help, I think, get it funded this year. The match would be through in-kind service, as well as we've been talking to Metroplex about doing some funding for that as well, so it doesn't impact the city's budget.
Perfect.
Questions? I'm sorry, this was in your packet. That's the next one. All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve it. Mr. Grasso, second by Ms. Porterfield. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Motion on the seeker also.
Do we need to do seeker also?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Right. So, motion to
Did we already do that last time, though?
We did last night.
Second. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, an amendment to the resolution accepting the HUD 108 loan. This was the additional stuff. It's not in fact originally. Mr. Polster.
This is not really an amendment. It's a whole new resolution. You passed a resolution, I think it was last September, but it's referenced in there authorizing the application for the loan. That loan has now been approved, and we now have to have the second resolution accepting the loan. And that's the purpose of this resolution. And it's got, number one, the one that you have is marked draft. I was asked this afternoon to give a draft. It is a draft. It has not gone through the normal vetting process. The final one would get approved by finance and so on. But one of the things that's a little bit unusual is that the last resolving paragraph talks about being able to make voluntary payments. Normally, this type of a loan would be paid back only from the CDBG funds as they come in. We also have the $100,000 a year from the sales tax agreement. So that third paragraph was put in there to accommodate the voluntary payment that could be made from the sales tax agreement. And again, the final draft of this could get tweaked one way or another to accommodate the needs of finance and development to meet the needs. But the rest of it is just standard language as required by HUD and what we do whenever we borrow money. So.
Questions? Ms. Porterfield.
And in the resolution, I don't see anywhere where it talks about, it says to make payments about the amount of the payments. Is that not something that needs to be included?
And we may put some in there. It gets to be a little bit unusual. The way this works is that, and Deb, correct me if I get off the track, but we pick a property or a group of properties that we want to deal with. Development needs to do an environmental assessment for that group of properties. That gets sent to HUD, And as it stands right now, we've got a meeting at, I think it's 11 o'clock tomorrow morning to confirm this, but I believe it's the Buffalo office of HUD. And they look at the group of properties and what we're proposing to do with those properties, and then they approve or disapprove. Once they approve, then the money that is needed for those properties gets drawn down. And that money then is used to pay for whatever is being done. Then periodically, and you'll have to get the specifics from Deb, but periodically there is a procedure where everything that has been drawn down then becomes a permanent note at a fixed rate of interest. Until that happens, and depending on the timing of when you have the drawdown, it could be one day or it could be a year, 6 months.
It's an undefined period of time.
Undefined period of time, that it floats, actually with LIBOR, it's 40 basis points above LIBOR. So I suppose I could put all of this into the resolution, but you're dealing with a flexible rate of interest until such time as HUD has the procedure where they convert the temporary note to a permanent note. But each drawdown, the yearly payment is based upon that amount of money being amortized over 20 years. So if you draw it down in July of 14, then July of 34 would be your last payment. Then if you have another drawdown in December, then for that one, it would be December of 34. So it's a somewhat cumbersome process, but that's what it amounts to. It's a 20-year amortization that initially is adjustable until such time as HUD goes through the process. And what they do is they aggregate. The 108 loan process is nationwide, so they will aggregate all of the amounts that the various municipalities throughout the country have drawn down for the 108 loans until they get, I don't know, some number. It might be $1 billion worth, it might be $100 million, but until there is some number that they then convert to a permanent note for financing that amount of money. And then they start over again.
Questions, comments?
You can be able to put all that in the resolution, Joe?
I would prefer not to.
Just one question, really. Based on the final paragraph, this is just because we're going to be using the sales tax money to pay towards the loan.
Right.
And not using the CDBG, future money from CDBG to pay the loan.
You may be using, it depends on the amounts drawn down, when they're being used, and so on. My suspicion is that in the long run, you will be using both.
There's also potential where we demolish a house, we're going to then sell that lot. That revenue comes back that could be used for payment on the note.
Okay.
So at this point, I will entertain a motion to approve this.
One other question. So this is just the draft, so we'll have the final resolution language prior to.
Mm-hmm.
I'll move it.
So you move it.
Based on that.
Second by Ms. Brazel, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. One more item that is not on the agenda. Mr. Erickson has asked if we might want to discuss this, so
It's going to be the
I'll
first.
turn it over to you.
Thank you. So we had our presentation with the casino today, and one of the things that's in the resolution in support of it, I know everyone's been inundated with calls and considerations, and I know we're doing a lot of thinking on whether we support the casino or not, that vote will be next week. But I'd like to propose that we consider legislation that says if we happen to get a casino, because there's a lot of ifs, there's how does this body vote, whether the governor awards it, so there's a lot of questions still. If we were to get a casino, that we would set aside or reserve the revenue, the state revenue portion, right? There's state gambling proceeds, there's property taxes, there's sales tax growth, all these areas of revenue. I propose that we take the gambling revenue portion of it and allocate it directly to tax levy reduction, right? So it would be protected, that we couldn't, or spend it on anything else or find other means for it, but it would actually go to lower the property taxes. I think it would be a good way to at least ensure that there's some positive impact. If anybody's questioning whether they're on the fence, it might be something that would help people say, well, at least we know it's going to have a significant reduction in taxes. So I propose that we do that, and I think there's been some discussions in terms of how that's written up. I'm not the lawyer to write up the legislation, but I might need somebody who understands how that stuff goes together to draft it. But just in concept, wanted to float it out there and see if anybody thought that would be a good way to kind of ensure that we're going to get some type of tax reduction for everyone who pays taxes in the city.
Questions? Comments? Mr. Newberry?
I mean, I like the idea that we're proposing to use the funding toward reducing taxes. But then it's very important that we also use funding when we receive this, not if we receive it, but when we receive the work. To use funding to renew our infrastructure also. Well, no doubt about it, we are going to get increase in service, increase in police call, fire, so we have to use funding toward that also. So, I mean, it's a good idea to reduce taxes, which we all love to reduce taxes, but then look at where are we going to get the funding to set aside for the additional that comes with it.
May I agree with you. So from a person who's been screaming for infrastructure upgrades, yes. This is just 1/3, one out of the 3 areas of revenue, right? So it would be sales tax and property tax that would also come into the city that could be used to, we're going to have to spend some money to accommodate, right? So those are 2 areas that would not be protected, quote unquote. So I think it's a balance.
Yes, we need to look at it in terms of focusing on, yes, we receive the funding, but not put it into one section.
Other thoughts, comments? Mr. Iggy?
Just, I'm kind of confused on why should this be done now and not after whether the proposal passes or not?
Well, for some people, what the money's going to might dictate how they vote. And after the money comes in, it's a lot easier to spend. So,
I don't think that's going to be for a while. If passes support from the council, it's not going to be immediate. They're not going to money coming
but 3-4 years from now, try to say, hey, let's spend it someplace else. Money has a way of disappearing quickly or getting spent relatively easily. So I'd like to just kind of put it on record that the council agrees to reserve a portion of it.
Ms. Brazel?
But just for clarification, ultimately the council decides the budget, right? So we decide where money is spent and how, correct?
Correct. So, but this would, we're kind of agreeing that this would get put into tax levy reduction, and if we wanted to increase the spending, this would kind of be protected via the tax cap, right? So my vision for this is that if we wanted, I'm trying to think how it works, and Deb might be able to explain how the tax cap calculation functions, but our tax levy was X. We get this $5.7 million lowers the tax levy. That becomes the baseline, so that if you want to increase it back up, you're limited by the tax cap. So this would be protected via the tax cap. So that.
Listen, the #1 concern in this entire city is lowering taxes. There is no doubt about that. I think if you polled every single one of us and said, what is your most important thing, it would be to lower taxes. But one of my concerns is the fact that this happens 3 or 4 years from now. So we're making a decision in an environment where we can't know the future of the environment we're going into to make that decision. So, I mean, I just want to bring that up as a discussion point. I mean, I listen, again, lowering taxes is awesome, but we don't know where we don't know what 4 years down the road is going to look like, or 3 years down the road is going to look like. I'm not opposed to the idea, but I just think, we talk a lot about at the table about making decisions that would, you know, impact the people in the future. We also sit at the table and say, wow, we're sitting here dealing with this right now because of a decision made, you know, to sell our tax liens to ATF. You know what I mean? And think of the hardship we've gone through because of that decision. And the people that made the decision are, you know, now this seems like a safer situation, but how can we anticipate what goes on 3 or 4 years from now?
Great question. So the way we could protect ourselves that way, so that if there was something 4 years from now where we need the money, it'd be very simple. We'd override the tax cap. It would just be a vote to override the tax cap. We could raise taxes 1,000,000% tomorrow by voting to override the tax cap. So this would be protected by the tax cap, but would require that extra vote to get it to override the tax cap. If we truly had one of those situations where we just needed the money.
Mr. Winterberry?
Just a question, I know Mr. Mayor can answer this. Is this project, construction project, tax exempt? Sales tax exempt?
No.
No. Okay.
There's no pilots or anything.
Okay, good. Thank you.
So is there general support for us to approve tentatively the idea of a resolution addressing Mr. Erickson's concern pending seeing the actual document next week? Or do you still have concerns?
Well, certainly the document would be an important first step.
Because the other thing we can do is we can always recess city development and planning and reconvene at 6:30 Monday night. You have to look at it again.
And it might not be a bad idea. I mean, I just think it's just, you know, I don't know. I'd like to digest it.
Okay.
I'm saying to let's digest it and call reconvene 6:30 Monday. So sorry.
Based on your comments, and I guess I'll ask this of Mr. Erickson, would you be comfortable if we said X% of the amount? Or?
Initially, you know, my thought would be I'd like to reserve, you know, a lot of the growth in revenue to tax levy reductions. I think that's a great way to kind of ensure that, you know, this casino brings in a kind of a game-changing event for the city in terms of lowering taxes, not just a little bit, but a wow, my taxes went way down kind of event. So because we have the revenue from property taxes, which should be significant with a couple $100 million, I forget what the total number was, $300 million investment just in this, not to mention the rest of the facility, 450. So the property tax revenue growth when this kicks in should be significant. The sales tax growth, you know, for what it is, will be growth. Those are two areas where I think is a compromise. That's money that this body will decide how to spend at that time. This is just one piece of it that I think we can set aside and promise it. But listen, any future council always has the power to change it, right? But it would take a majority vote to say, okay, we're gonna spend it, right? Because it's a good chunk of money that could have you know, by their estimated numbers, it's a 15–18% reduction in property taxes. That's a big deal. It's a big deal. So I want this full amount to be allocated to it.
What do you mean full amount? The projected
whatever the state
projection,
state revenue, the 5.7 million, $6 million, that state gambling revenue, that portion of it would be the part set aside. Sales tax, property tax, open game, open, you know, that's still spendable by, you know, would be protected. I'd prefer to have it all protected, but you know, I understand it's common sense.
Just a follow-up question on this, Mr. Mayor. Since this is estimated $450 million, we're going to be getting sales tax from the construction of this project. Is there any consideration or any thought given that we want to look at revising or agreement with the county in terms of sales tax?
I'm not looking to revise that agreement. I believe it's a good agreement. In fact, we get more than we would have if we'd done a preemptive sales tax. So that agreement's in place, gives us growth for the first time, and you know, the past two deals just held us harmless and at a static level so that we will share that growth.
Because that city of Saratoga receives $9 million from their sales tax agreement. We're guaranteed was 11.4, I think. So
11.8. And again, if you look at the economic indicators of the census data, Saratoga Springs has twice the level of economic activity within their city than the city of Schenectady does. They generate $9 million in change for sales tax using the preemptive one. We're getting 11.8, now it's a variable based on the outcomes with roughly, again, half that level of economic activity. Now things are shifting so that, again, where you have more activity downtown, where you have this development on Mohawk Harbor and then the potential for casino, it's again moving it in the direction where we're going to have again, sustained and continued growth.
Talking about Saratoga, the state is subsidizing them with $2 point something million to host the casino.
Oh, yeah.
So
Correct.
Yeah. So they're receiving a subsidy on top of their fees.
All right, so then we will move forward and get a draft of a resolution that we can look at on Monday night. We'll plan with, as I said, we'll recess this meeting and reconvene 6:30 Monday to have some continued discussion.
Does that give us enough time? Do we have other things to discuss on Monday where we should come in a little bit earlier? Or?
6.
I don't know. I don't know what's on the agenda for.
Right.
Right now, I don't know either. I haven't checked
Right,
to see how
maybe
many properties there are.
6:15
or 6:30. Depending on what.
6, okay. Let's do 6, then we're safe.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we don't have to rush.
Okay, good. So at this point then, I'll entertain a motion to recess this meeting.
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
I got public service.
Finance.
I do. I wrote over the item, so funny notes. Call to order Finance Committee. First item up, support of the CTG grant application.
This is again an application where the Center for Technology and Government has been in, done a presentation. We're putting in an application in conjunction with Albany, Troy, Amsterdam, and Saratoga Springs to do some of the record keeping and data collection for really the housing component, and code enforcement is what it's focused on. But it hopefully will create a platform where there would be other things that would be accessible not only in Schenectady but other communities. And then they're looking to do this application as a model that could be applied statewide.
Sounds like a good idea. Any questions? No? Good. Great. Ms. Porterfield.
There's a 10% cash match required.
I'm
According to
not
this?
sure that is that cash or it's...
No, it is cash.
Yeah, it says 10%.
The most that would be involved would be $20,000.
Oh.
If we are spending that money anyhow in terms of our code operation, and we're again talking about 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, we were completely manual. We're moving toward the computerized model, and it's one of the things in the state. Again, I can't remember if I told the council this directly, but police and fire data, they're all standardized. So you pick up a police report in Schenectady, it's the same thing in Albany, same thing in Buffalo, same thing in New York City. Fire reports are the same thing. And what we're seeing when you do that analysis of that data, you're getting positive impacts where we're doing the data-driven policing. You're seeing significant improvements in some of our crime numbers. Albany's also doing some similar things. You're seeing improvements. The collection of housing code data is, even though we're enforcing the same statewide building code, the discretion of the collection of that data is pretty much allowed to the individual building inspector or building department. So Albany's collecting some data that they think is important. Buffalo collects things that are different. Schenectady collects different things. And when you try and compare things, we all know we have similar problems. but we don't have that empirical data that is an exact match for abandoned buildings, how many are peeling paint, how many are major structural issues. And that's what we're hoping with this program, is to put in place what would be a standard collection form that the state would make applicable through municipalities throughout the country. And then we could be able to, again, use that data. And what I believe is this becomes our most significant investment. By doing these things, it will reduce our police and fire costs, which are most expensive. We'd done a press conference today in Albany, again supporting the Attorney General's zombie legislation, and I used the building on State Street that we had the fire 3 weeks ago. That building, we've got over $60,000 in, and we don't own it. And there was a mortgage written, the bank started to foreclose, they really didn't foreclose. The person who lived there moved out because he thought he was going to be evicted. The bank never perfected the foreclosure. Since that period of time, we've had 108 or 110 calls for service at that property for police and fire. Then we've had a fire there before. We had the fire 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. Then we had the demolition of the building. So we've got, in our total cost, again, I'll say it's $60,000. That's probably on the low side. And we still don't have clear title to that property. So we'll have to go through now in a tax foreclosure, get title to it, take it back, and we'll be coming back here with some proposal to sell it to an adjacent property owner or convert it to some other use. But it's just shocking where you see that amount of money and amount of effort that's been put just in that one property.
Any questions?
Just one. So the $20,000 that we would have to pay, our portion of it, would come from the code enforcement budget currently?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll move it.
Is there a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. It's passed. Anything coming before finance? No?
Would you adjourn?
Second? Yes, second. All in favor of adjourning? Aye. We are adjourned.
Call to order public service and utilities, 2014 Waterline replacement project. Mr. LaFond. Hello.
Every year, we issue a RFP for maintenance on our water mains. We replace what we feel is the most needed mains in the city, where we have enough budget to do. This year, we're doing Manhattan Street from Foster to what we call the airstrip, and Wright Avenue from Central Parkway coming into the past the Rose Garden where the big landing is, in a 16 by 16 by 6 dot on Albany Street. We had received 5 bids. The lowest responsible bidder was Carver Construction Company, $267,323, and making a recommendation that we award that contract to Carver. Funding is coming out of the operating budget for 2014. The other thing on Manhattan Street, we'll be looping in Manhattan to Clarendon. We try to look at some of the dead-end streets. We have a dead-end water main. They can become problematic when you have a dead-end water main, keeping a residual. So that'll also get looped into Clarendon. So it's a constant loop now there. Currently, it's a dead end.
Okay, so you're including Clarendon. Okay.
It'll loop into Clarendon. It's the same thing we did last year. If you remember on Cheltenham Avenue, we looped it into Poplars up above by the Lampa. We looped that in because it was a dead end also.
Questions? Mr. Mudavari?
I mean, I can be wrong, but Carver Construction, based on reports, they have not met their MVP requirements. Is that something that we take into consideration when awarding these contracts?
John might want to answer that. With the new WMBA, they submit their paperwork. They say they need it. They meet with Marion. We have a pre-construction meeting with Marion prior to notice to proceed.
Do you have that report, the MWBE report for Carver Construction?
It would be in the bid packet.
Is it possible that I can ask for a copy?
Yeah, we prior to him, we'll do a pre-construction meeting, he'll meet with Marion prior to that. Well, a lot of the water main would be, they take off the materials, but there is a form he has to fill out.
Okay. And John, some of this, when people make those comments, that they're not necessarily accurate. They may be taking, they do their own calculations, so they're taking the total amount of the contract and saying X dollars is supposed to go for an MBE, which is fine, but that's really the labor component of it. There's some components, we had the discussion on, is it Weaver Street, Paul, or is it Edison Avenue, where a big portion of the contract was the actual, I use the term culvert, but it's...
it was the actual material, the culvert, the actual concrete, precast.
That was coming from one vendor, no matter who got the contract. And then when you actually do the labor component, the number is smaller. And so, yes, they're meeting their goals and our targets on the actual labor, but people will use the total value of the contract, and it really creates an incorrect impression of the calculation of what the number is.
Like saying the paving, if you're doing a 1.2 million in paving, but 800,000 is just the material, it's going to come from the, from the Andersonville, the asphalt plant there. The bulk of that is all in the material itself.
I think that Ms. Kajewski can break it down, because she has in the past, between what the percentages should be versus for what part of it where they can get MWBE. But I share your concern, because in the past, we all know it's not a secret that this particular company was not meeting those requirements. So let me make sure I'm clear on what you're saying, that they have to meet with Miriam.
If everything is approved, once we get the resolution back from goes through council, then we set up a pre-construction meeting. At that pre-construction meeting, myself, Carl, Miriam, and representatives from Carver Construction are there to make sure that he's in fact compliant with everything he has to be in compliant with. And Marion is always invited to those meetings.
Ms. King?
I was going to say, and correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is initially Miriam was not invited to a lot of those meetings, going back now a couple of years.
Maybe going back.
And that was one of the things that she insisted on as a way of helping improve compliance.
In fact, she was at the meeting, the berm for the water plant, the water well field was just awarded recently. Marion was present for that. So we do invite Marion to all the pre-construction meetings, make sure all paperwork is attached and they're compliant, and she explains everything with the contractor who was being awarded the job.
Mr. Erickson?
So the repairs here, these aren't ones that are currently leaking. These are just more of a, based on age, we swap them out.
Based on age and history. On Manhattan Street, there's been 3 breaks on that street, and it being a dead end, that's why that was chosen. Again, Central Park, it's had problems right at the intersection of Central Parkway and right where it goes into the pond. So, yes. And the T on Albany Street is leaked. So we put a temporary repair, but it's time to replace that large T in 2 new valves.
Any of these recently paved roads that were tearing up?
No. Typically, when we look at our paving, we get the paving list prior to going out, and we do an investigation. We look at our history for sewer and water. If there is an issue with sewer or water, and the budget doesn't allow me to go in and do the infrastructure first, then they'll swap a street out. I have the 14, and I've asked for 15 and 16, so we're trying to be, I need the paving list for 15 and 16, because if I got to replace a lot of water main or a lot of sewer, I need to plan for that to get your approval in, coming up for this year for 15, so that the paving can be done either later in 15 or in 16 if there's major infrastructure work on the road. So we're working with engineering and rural service, so we look at the streets prior now, and that's what we do.
That's smart.
We always get a survey,
That's smart, thank you.
and have a patch. The National Grid always comes in 2 sometimes on the horizon, but we're trying to be proactive and stay ahead by at least 3 years, because I'm going to have to come for funding so we can do the infrastructure work first.
Great, thank you.
So this is primarily more, okay, if I can say correctly, in renewing our infrastructure on a yearly basis.
Yeah, every year we pick out a couple of streets. This year, and part of this is we'll be doing some valve work. We're replacing valves. We replaced 15 valves last year in the city. We we did the work ourselves. We just had to come up with the development. We did the digging, the filling, and blacktopping afterwards, and we saved $160,000 from the previous year by moving into more inside work and having our in place there.
Other questions?
I just want to follow up. Can I get a copy of the report, the MWB report?
Yeah,
Just email it to us.
Yeah, I can scan it and I'll email it to Chad and he can send it out.
Yeah, I'd like this one. So, I guess this is probably questions for the mayor. So, in the event they can't meet it, do we have any recourse? I mean, what do we do if we can't?
They meet it.
They meet it?
Right.
No question.
Right.
There's no way they won't.
That's the kind of conversation I've had with management of Harvard.
Okay.
You know, they're going to live up to that commitment. We don't dance around with it. You know, there's how you do the calculation.
I understand.
I want to be
that.
fair with them.
Right.
And
Oh, yeah.
again, they have made that commitment. I expect it from them, and I expect it from other vendors and contractors that we do business with.
Okay. All right. So, do you have a question? Okay. Second? Did you have a question, or was that a second?
I think we both moved at the same time,
Oh, you
so
moved
I'll
at
second it.
the second?
Yep.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. LaFond, before you go,
Yes.
that's something else. I just want to ask the clerk to please put discussion of the pump station in Stockade on for 2 weeks. This council has had questions before, and then things just languish, and they lay there, and they're unattended, and I don't believe that a 100-year flood is going to be a 100-year flood with the way our weather is changing and the increase of the bad weather we're seeing as an entire nation. And just because people weren't happy or had questions, let's get the questions out on the table, let's get them answered, and let's move forward, because this is not something that we can mess around with our Stockade residents. We need to come to a solution, and we need to move in a forward direction. So I'll ask that as the chair, you know, whatever we need to do to pursue this, to get it back out on the table and get it moving forward, that we do.
We can certainly put it on for 2 weeks.
Okay. Thank you. Good
One
night.
other thing, because I have a lot of people
Any
asking.
more questions?
One more question.
Let me say.
It'd be Colombo. Just one more. Weaver Street, what's the update on that? Because a lot of people are asking what's going on. I think we were told it was going to be short term when that first went down.
Because it's in conjunction with what's being done with National Grid.
Yeah.
And we, you know, Carver got ahead of schedule, and what's happened now is National Grid is not sort of met up to where we've got a box culvert in. So we've only got a few days worth of work there. It's really on the National Grid side, so we're waiting for them to butt up to what we've
Do we
left.
have a target right now?
I'll send you an email. I'll find out. I'll get with our consultant, and we'll see where they are. Because the bypass pumping line is still there, and that's what they're doing. They're bypass that creek, and they've got a mesh right up to what we've left them up there, culvert now. So we're pretty much done, but because of the bypass line going over, it can't be moved. It's all fused pipe, and that company comes out of like Rochester. So.
So let me know so I can answer the question when it comes to me. Okay, good. Thank you.
Any other business to come before public service and
Motion we
utilities?
adjourn.
Second. I thought we already did.
Well, you kept asking questions, so I don't know. We haven't got there. Okay.
I think we did.
All right. Okay. So we're adjourned. Call to order health and recreation. The first item that I have on here a couple of ceremonial resolutions. A couple weeks ago, seems like just a couple weeks ago, the Schenectady Foundation gave out community hero awards to different individuals who they deemed as community heroes, and those folks were given $10,000 for their organization, not for themselves. So I just thought it would be a nice idea for the council also to recognize the work that's being done by individuals in the community. That's why this is on. Any discussion?
Is it a broad base or individual?
The awards have already been given out. So the people that we're giving the resolution to are already ones that the Schenectady Foundation has recognized at their dinner on the 21st, was it? Something like that.
Do you know how many?
10.
10.
Mm-hmm.
Giving him one ceremonial resolution.
One, sir?
No, one per person. The mayor said that that's acceptable when there's multiple people. Yes.
Are we going to actually give these out at the next meeting? Like all 10 of them?
You're not going to read all 10,
Uh-oh.
if that's what your question is.
Yeah, no, that's what my question is. Because I was reading casino discussion and 11 ceremonial resolutions.
Well, yes, I'm going to read every single one. I'm going to ask each of you to help me with that. No, essentially, to have the resolutions actually be more personalized and reflect what the person got their award for, just a discussion about that and them getting a resolution, not every single one being read. But that would be fun. We should consider
That's
that.
what I was getting to, because when I asked how many.
Okay, all right. Does that, you feel better about that now?
Paper.
A little bit?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay, the other ceremonial resolution is for, there's something called the Working Group on Girls, which does girls' circles at schools throughout the city. And this particular girls' circle at Mount Pleasant Middle School did a project where they're collecting pens, pencils, and chalk for a school in Uganda, because they can't afford it. They had someone come in and speak about it, and this was a project that the girls wanted to do in order to support a school, the school in Africa. So I wanted to be able to recognize these young women for taking on this project and thinking of beyond themselves and how they could help. So yes, Mr. Mover.
Happy to.
Okay. So that's it.
Second.
And I have to say, there's one more part to this because they asked me to do this today. We meet on Mondays. They just want me to offer the opportunity. This is what the collection box looks like to bring to the city council and the mayor's office. If you're interested in donating, I will leave this here at the mayor's office, and you can bring whatever pens, pencils, or chalk the next week, and we'll pack them up.
She'll put these in.
Take them out of Dave's desk.
And then send them away.
Post-it notes too. He'll put some
Okay,
post-it notes in there.
so you have an opportunity, no pressure, but they wanted me to offer you the opportunity to be a part of their project as well.
Sure, excellent.
Okay? Yeah, I'm sorry, show the
Show
camera.
it to the
Okay.
camera.
There
Make
it is,
your
camera.
donation to his office.
Okay, we'll put the box somewhere here in City Hall, all right? Thank you.
I still second.
What's that?
I still second the motion.
Okay. All right, thanks. So is there did I say that anything else to come before Health and
Ask for a vote, please.
Oh, I thought.
I already moved it. He
You
seconded.
second?
So
All those in
it's
favor?
all in favor.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, anything else to come before Health and Recreation?
Move to adjourn.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. We're adjourned.
Call to order public safety discussion, red light cameras. Mr. Mayor?
I was told by the police department to be prepared to discuss it.
Actually, I asked for this to be put on the agenda. There was an article in one of the newspapers recently talking about red light cameras. I've had people say, hey, why don't we? I've had people say, hey, why, we definitely should, definitely shouldn't. And so I was just looking for more information from, I think the police department, and Mary might be familiar with the topic as well, the pros and cons, and is this something that, since other communities are doing it, is something we should be at least knowledgeable about and deciding if it's the right thing for our community. I know personally, there's some of the intersections we have are pretty dangerous. There's a woman that comes to council meetings, her son was killed, in an intersection because someone ran a red light, and so we've had quite a few of those. And so would a camera in certain strategic locations maybe
One right in front of Broadway lunch.
put people on their best behavior and hopefully save some lives. I don't know the pros and cons, so I was looking for more information.
They've been around for over 2 decades. Schenectady originally put in an application in 1996. Then the technology was a lot different, and worked a scenario where if we were granted that authority, the film would have been processed by New York City, which was the first city to have it in New York State. Since then, even though our request has been in there, some of our state legislators have not acted favorably on that. One that's been there for the entire period of time that could have made it happen did not make it happen. They grant other communities. It is, in my mind, just lunacy that municipalities now still have to ask for home rule on this. They have had red light cameras in place for, again, in excess of 2 decades in this country. There's a lot of empirical data out there. They're not a solvent, they're part of enforcement. You get, there's some examples where you get we have use college students. They'll run a red light. You don't get the results you want because the car is registered to mom and dad who are living halfway across the country, so the notice goes halfway around the country. They don't tell little Susie or little Bobby till they see them when they come home for the holidays and they've graduated. So you still have to do uniformed police doing enforcement. The way New York does it now, where you grant these isolated authority to put them in place, you can't standardize the equipment, you can't standardize the purchasing of it, so it's, again, somewhat convoluted. If the council wants to do a home rule request, you can stand in line. The better authority would be for the state to stand up, put in place uniform policies by which cities could either put a red light camera in place or not. They tend to be better used at higher volume intersections. And more recently, there's also been some kickback on them from false tripping, where you can have people who are making legitimate right on red turns, but the camera will trip it. Sensitivity adjustments that haven't been completely synced. So there's been some cases across the country where people have gotten tickets incorrectly. And it's, again, it's a tool that can be used for enforcement. It's not a panacea or salvation for some of the higher incident intersections. And you look at that traffic data where you have crashes, and so you can do the cameras. There's signage and other things that you really have to do in conjunction with that to get the results that you want. And we have been fairly sophisticated in terms of some of that analysis. Again, where Chief Kilcullen's one of the leaders in the state, where traffic data is one of the components where they do the enforcement for other criminal activity. And it's significant. We've been using that model and are seeing results from it.
Do you have a, I mean, would you support it, or are you opposed or neutral on that topic?
I think the state should get, I tried to do it 20 years ago. The technology has changed. They should put the rules in place and allow municipalities to work under that criteria. The home rule legislation, where it becomes a demonstration project, is really just foolish.
Is this something that we should revisit with our assemblymen?
Yes.
Senators?
Yes.
I'm just wondering if you have any data on whether the revenue outweighs the cost of the camera systems and maintenance?
Again, you have to put them on higher volume intersections, and yes, the revenue does outweigh the cost. Okay. The ones that are solid state, so you get them up, they can be there for longer periods of time. There's actually less maintenance on some of the ones today than there were 20 years ago.
So can we do a new resolution in support of this to the Assembly?
Well, in today's environment, you have to seek home rule legislation where they would grant specific criteria for the city of Schenectady. The council can do that. I personally don't think that's the way the state should be going, but there's a lot of things that the state does that I don't agree with.
To do a resolution
in
again,
support
of the state taking action like that.
Or giving us the authority to the city to...
Again, there should just be blanket criteria across the state where they pick, an intersection has to have so many incidents, or it has to have a certain level of traffic volume, and meet criteria that's well within the data that's available, as opposed to they grant it to, I think the Albany proposal is for 20 cameras, and 20 is probably on the high side for the city of Albany. They may have enough intersections to be that volume, but again, it's an odd way to do it.
Yeah, I know, but
I think if we were to,
I think we should make a try or ask them, revisit it. almost 20 years, and we can do something now and see if we can get it. Because we have seen our fair share of the increase in traffic. I mean, I can say Brandywine and Broadway and elsewhere. The last
we have Brandywine and Brandywine and State, Brandywine and Albany, down by the community college. There's high incidence of fender benders, traffic accidents.
Talk to the crossing guard at Broadway lunch. Ask how many people go through the red lights there.
Yes, quite a few. There have been, people do disregard those red lights on a lot of time, on a lot of occasions. So can we do a resolution for this?
It makes sense to me.
And support?
At least, I would support that, if you're asking.
Yes. Okay. No, but I'm just...
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with doing, I'm even thinking whether we just do letters to all of our, state reps and stuff, just saying that we'd like to see something happen with this.
I guess I just want clarification of what we're doing here. Are we asking our state representatives to bring this to the floor for discussion and having the state move forward? Or are we asking for a resolution to start a home rule proceeding to move forward that way?
Pretty much a home rule, as Mr. Mayor says, to move forward.
But the mayor really supports getting the state to make bring it forward on the state level, so that it would be available to all municipalities universally under the state.
But then we can do it both ways. If it doesn't happen universal, then we happen for a municipality.
I agree. I think we have to approach both, right?
Yeah,
One is approach at the state level, as the mayor says, but that might take a wee bit longer.
Having
to get
do
the
a
state,
universal.
the state to change their ways versus at least getting home rule legislation. Then
home rule takes a long time. Where am I confused?
They could both take the same length of time.
Oh.
So it's,
so we do both.
If you can figure it out in Albany, God bless you.
It took you 20 years?
Fine by me, whatever.
Okay. Two resolutions.
One in support of general, statewide,
Yes.
and one in support of the home rule.
Home rule for the city of Schenectady.
Is that normal? Do you know what I mean? Like, because we're asking for two different things. I mean, is that how? That's fine with me. I mean, it just seems weird that we're going like, okay, state, do it. Well, wait, give us home rule. It's fine by me. I just don't want to look like silly because we're asking for two different things.
Well, we're saying, hey, we want it.
Well,
Change your way. Changing your way would be the best way, but if you're not going to do that, we'd at least like home rule, right? I mean, it's at the end of the day, we want, potentially, right? We might want the idea of the concept of putting
Well,
cameras
because he has the most experience of this at the table. Mr. Mayor, could you weigh in on that?
It's only the prerogative of the council.
That's not what I asked.
In terms of the overall, right, you have one editorial writer at the Gazette who thinks that I should be doing a lot more to promote red light cameras in the city of Schenectady. I have other priorities in terms of my time and effort. So this is not one of the key things that we're doing in terms of law enforcement in the city.
But that's not my question. My question is it a normal way to proceed to do two different resolutions? One asking the state to move forward and one asking about home rule legislation for Schenectady. Doesn't matter.
I don't know. I think you could do both.
Good. You just keep writing resolutions then. I'll vote for them.
Well, you can ask them, but I don't know if they're...
Any more discussion?
I'll move both of them.
Second? Good. All in favor?
Aye.
Any other business for public safety?
I move we adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Call to order claims. Motion to enter executive session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No, you.